Right. Well, it is 1 o'clock, so I say we kick it off. Welcome, everybody. I'm Heather McManus from the Designers Collaborative, and I'm so happy to bring you What Could You Be Delegating with Melissa Clarke from MC Virtual Assistants. So this is I think one of those topics that we need to revisit again and again because, if you're about to hire someone, thinking about it, or already have somebody, the challenge is, what do you give them to do? And you need to do that because it'll help you. So what are those tasks? So that's what we are going to totally dive into, and we'll have questions at the end as well. So Melissa, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Heather. Pleasure to be here. Yes, delegation. We're going to dive in all about how to delegate, what to delegate, when to delegate, and all of those fun things. I did today pull together a bit of a slideshow presentation because I thought that would help us go through things, and and I will share this afterwards as well. So anybody who couldn't make it, and it's always there to reference back to. So if technology is going to be on our side, Heather, I should be able to share my screen and take us all through that today.
Yep.
Okay, good. So yes, what could you be delegating? So we're going to talk through where to begin, where to start, what to delegate, how to delegate, and then we will be taking some questions at the end. So first of all, delegating, where to start. It's something that comes naturally to some and not so much to others. And I think it's the first thing you can really do is kind of, identify your strengths and weaknesses. What are you good at? We all have our strengths. We all have our weaknesses. If something, isn't in your zone of genius, something that you don't like to be doing, then that is something that you can be delegating. It might be, it's funny, I talk to designers and some of them are like, I really actually love numbers. I love doing the invoicing. I like to keep that in my wheelhouse. Others are like, oh my God, no, I don't want to see an invoice. I'm sick of numbers. It's not my strong suit. That's something I'd love to pass off. So everybody has their own individual strengths and weaknesses and things that they do and don't like doing. So that's always a good place to start, is to, just simply get that list. Decide, okay, I love doing the mood boards. I still want to do my mood boards, but you know what? I really don't want to be sending out client contracts or whatever that might look like. So start with that list, your kind of likes and dislikes, if you like, to put that down on paper, which kind of followed into this one as well, of that list of those tasks. What is that you're doing every day, every week, every month? The monthly invoicing at the end of the month, you might find that you sit down and spend 4 hours going through your hours or what you've logged that month and inputting it into a spreadsheet or inputting it into QuickBooks or something. That's something that you don't need to be spending 4 hours doing. You can be sharing that data with somebody else for them to input into the system. So what is it that you do every day, every week, every month? And then on that, just sort of look at that list and say, okay, prioritize them based on their, urgency levels, their importance levels. What is less urgent? What is less important? Less necessarily kind of part of your day to day. And what doesn't make you money that you're doing, that, you don't need to be doing, an hour of your time, whatever your billable rate is. That's an hour that you can be spending elsewhere instead of spending an hour in putting data into a spreadsheet. That can be done by somebody else, and you're spending that hour on billable time out to clients, designing, whatever it is that, you want to be doing. You're out on site, you're out on the field. So these are all good things that you can really kind of just carve out that bit of time and really kind of try to identify those areas. Review your workload. What tasks are taking up most of your time, and with that, what that you're necessarily not that efficient at. but somebody else would be able to do that for you in half the time. You know, it might be that you're trying to pull together a newsletter in MailChimp or in Canva, you know, and it's just not your strong suit. Somebody, you know, that might take you 2 hours to figure out templates and where to images and how to upload images. And no, this is something I want to be doing, but you know, that's something that you could give to somebody else to do that knows MailChimp, knows Canva, and they can probably, they'll probably get it done in half an hour. So, you know, what are tasks that take up a lot of your time, or things that you feel that you struggle with? You know, I really don't need to be doing this. I'm sure somebody else could be doing this twice as fast as I could. And, you know, better, you know, we're not all experts at everything. So that's another, you know, a way of sort of looking at what to be delegating, is evaluating what is taking up your time and what you're not most efficient at. And then there's always ways to improve efficiency. You know, look at your process. Do you have, you know, an onboarding process? Do you have anything in place that for automation? You know, do you have emails that are automated out with your welcome packets and things like that? You know, what are tasks that you're doing every day that, you know, are unnecessary, that could be automated, could be things that, you know, other VA could come in and step in and do for you. We'll dive into more of, you know, what those tasks look like to help manage your workload. So moving on to actually what to delegate, I've broken this down in different areas. You know, initially, first of all, you know, day-to-day general admin tasks in your business. So this is a range of things. Calendar management. I spoke to a client earlier this week. She said, I am sick of fielding new client calls, new client emails that come in. You know, I'm finding that I'm just writing, you know, an email out. Yes, thank you very much for inquiry. You know, here we go. I'm finding that I'm wasting time on calls with people that aren't actually that interested. The budget's not right, they're not qualified. So, you know, really wanting somebody to come in on that front end to field that process, to help qualify you know, inquiries that are coming in, you know, getting them to fill in an inquiry form. You know, what's their timeline, what's their budget? So really that inquiry is only getting to that designer when they've been qualified, they're serious, you know, they've answered some questions up front. So, you know, handling that inquiry inbox, she had templates for emails, you know, information that can be sent out. So that's something that, you know, you could delegate. Help setting up those discovery calls, calendar management, you know, going back and forward between what, you know, somebody's availability is, setting up something like Calendly or Acuity if, you know, you don't have calendar links in place. So just general calendar management there. Inbox management. It might be that you want somebody to go in and filter out all of your spam, or you might have certain emails that you're getting that you want highlighting or flagging or forwarding, or so anything like that. For inbox management, you know, be a vacation cover. If you're away, have somebody going in and just flagging anything that's coming in. You might be waiting on, you know, installs or important information, but just having somebody else there to help monitor that if you're away. Yeah, new client, we spoke about that, setting up contracts. There's things like Adobe Sign or DocuSign or HelloSign, or these sort of contract agreement e-signature platforms that, you know, again, help. It might be that you're sitting there manually signing a contract and scanning it and uploading it. You know, there's ways that can be that process can be streamlined as well. Having, you know, it might be that you say, yeah, okay, here's my LOA, I'm happy, have that sent out to the client, follow up until they sign it, save it in our folder in the drive. So that process, upfront for new client inquiries, and actually taking discovery calls. You know, some of our clients have had BAs where they have I say script, you know, so I'd say script loosely, but you know, bullet points of information that they want from that lead, of, you know, what's their budget, what's their timeline, taking down some basic information, you know, what's their project scope. You know, again, that's helping to filter out that they're not discussing the project in more detail at that point. They're just pre-qualifying that lead before it comes to you. It's also helping you to put that line of distance between, you know, that you're not always available. You're not there to jump on a discovery call with somebody, you know, that afternoon. That, you know, you do have a schedule, you do have a pipeline, you do have projects, and you know, that helps to give that vibe as well. Ordering samples, paint samples, fabric samples, whatever that might be, any sort of samples, just sending, you know, the code, a photo, you're out and about, you know, taking a photo from your phone, order these samples for me, deliver them to my address. That's just taking you, you know, 2 minutes to take that photo and forward it off, and then, you know, you're not then logging into the system and placing that order. Client weekly updates, you may have a system, a project management system you send those out through, or email, but you know, if you're having a meeting with a VA and taking down those day-to-day tasks that are being done, you know, just sending client project updates out every week, gathering client testimonials. I think, you know, we always often that sort of offboarding process, we always talk about the onboarding process, but never really always talk about necessarily the offboarding process. But yeah, so how, you know, with that, following up, getting the client testimonials, getting them on House, getting them on Google, sending a thank you gift, something further down. So some more, you know, vendor rebates. You may have specified some appliances that then, you know, you're able to get the rebates for, but there's a process for that. You have to upload the invoices, you have to say when it's shipped, you have to give the delivery date, you have to do this. So, you know, passing that on for somebody else to import into the system, you know, for you to get that rebate check back. Photo shoot coordination, dealing with the photographer, helping, you know, with any accessories, ordering accessories or anything like that. Updating budget sheets. Everybody has different ways of doing this, but you know, you probably have your Excel sheets. You might have invoices that you've got, but you want to pull everything together, you know, estimates from estimates you've received from vendors, pulling it all together and getting it into a budget sheet. You know, here's the kitchen, this is the appliances, this is the plumbing, this is the tile, the countertop, this is, and having it all in one place, pulling that information together from estimate that you receive, is something that, you know, you could have help with as well. Same with, you know, spec sheets as you're going through a project. You know, at the end of the project, it's you know, often needed to have the, you know, material spec book. You know, you've got the links to the lighting and the plumbing and the tile, and but you know, often these manufactured online have links to download their spec sheets. But actually going on and downloading them and saving in a Google Drive folder so that they're there as part of the ordering process, and then when it comes to the end of the project, great, we have our specification sheet. We don't have to go and dig and dive and find them all at the end in a panic when we're, you know, ready to turn it over to the contractor. Help with compiling vendor and client directory lists, you know, a vendor spreadsheet. You probably have your logins, your password in an email inbox somewhere. You know, getting all of those collated, having it all in one place, whether that be on an Excel sheet or in your design software like House or Madoma or whatever you're using, but help kind of compiling information, having it in one place. Yeah, help with sending out client and holiday gifts, and you know, scheduling birthday cards to go out to clients. You know, when a client comes on board, sending out a welcome gift. I had an onboarding call yesterday, and Zidane was like, I've got some client birthdays, I've been meaning to do this, can you just like call the florist and get the if I give you all of the information, can you make it happen? So Even things like that as well. So it's a lot of general admin tasks that can be outsourced. Next, moving on to procurement. This is obviously in the wheelhouse of primarily what we do, and what a lot of designers struggle with, don't want to do, once it's like all ordered, specified, deal with all of the back end, getting it from A to B and installed. So really that looks like, we can help with getting quotes. You can maybe just have links and say, okay, this light, this table, this sofa, get me the quote. So whether that be going online or emailing reps, but getting pricing, opening vendor accounts. That's often they have credit card forms they're filling in, or resale certificates and things that they require. So support with opening vendor accounts, creating proposals, whatever your design software looks like, Studio Designer, Mydoma, Ivy. All of our VAs are skilled in different software depending on what your requirements are. But it might be that you're sending through links, it's this four-hand copy table, it's this visual comfort light, it's this Bernhardt bed, clip them, put them into the proposal, create the proposal, get the shipping cost, add the markup, whatever that might be. Creating proposal, placing the orders when it actually comes to that time, the client pays, depending on where you're ordering it from, but help with creating those POs, getting the order confirmation in, having the acknowledgement back, getting the ship dates, that whole kind of process, the actual ordering process as well. Following up on order tracking, shipping. You've got a big furniture project, a lot of stuff, you've probably got an inbox full of shipping notifications. And it's like, well, where do they go? What do we do with these? How do I, deal with these? I think, speak to designers, and a lot of designers do have some form of spreadsheets in place, I have to say. Some are sort of like, no, if I need to find where something is, I just have to go through my inbox to find that email. I can't remember when it shipped. Was it back ordered? Has it shipped? Is it going to ship? So just help with tracking all of that back end. Furniture orders, lighting, whatever that might be. Warehouses, some receivers are a lot better than others when it comes to what they've received, in what condition they've received it, but help with, okay, that item's come in, it's not damaged, great, or that item hasn't come in yet, where is it? Oh, it has now come in, we need a replacement. It's damaged. Following back up with the rep and the vendor to get that replacement. Scheduling installs when it comes to install day, dealing with the receiving warehouse, getting the client's availability, looking in your calendar, making that install happen. What's needed for that install. Do we need to do any stain treatments, fiber seal treatments? Okay, if we do, well, let's check in with fiber seal. When can they come? What, coordinating that. And then a lot of you work with local workrooms, custom pillows, window treatments. It might be that you've got some custom things being done for a project as well. You've ordered some fabric. Did it get to the workroom? Do they have what they need? Do they have the the correct order from you? So all that kind of toing and froing, go between with that whole procurement process. There's a lot that goes on from the point of quoting to the point of it being installed in a client's house in some way, shape or form. And it's, what part of that, we do all of it for some designers, we do sections of it for some, really depends on, what your process is, what your comfort level is. I speak to some designers and they're like, no, I'm just not comfortable with having, have somebody else having my credit card details, and what if the order gets wrong, and things like that. We do say any larger orders, like $10,000 sofa, things like that, they're always going to need approval from you first. But really it just depends on what your current process is and where your comfort level is, on what part of that you delegate. But all of it can be delegated. It's just in what works for you, and how that fits in. Just for a lot of designers, they still deal with all of the ordering, but then forward all the confirmations and say, okay, now track it, deal with the back orders, deal with any damages, let me know when it comes in, you know. So that part of it as well, the logistics side. Moving on from procurement. Marketing. So, you know, there's several tasks. Some of you love doing marketing. Some of you have marketing agencies you outsource to. Some of you know it's something you should do, want to do, but just don't know when you get the time to do it. There's several things, award entries. You know, that's always one of those things. NKBA, ASID, they all have requirements for how things are uploaded. Photos have to be resized. You need client release forms. You need photographer release forms. Floor plans need to be reformatted. Everything needs to be uploaded to a portal. That's something that, you know, that whole process of getting the documents uploaded and in is something that could be outsourced. Updating website updates, you know, you've probably got your template, you've got your website, might be in Squarespace or Wix or Show It or whatever, but if you have a new project, you've got some new photography, you're going to want to get it on your website. You know, so making website updates like that with new project photography, getting it on house, new project photography, you know, your NKBA profiles, anything like that, the general updates. Some, you know, like social media support. If you know, if a designer comes to us specifically just wanting social media support, then you know, we're not strategists, and I have other agencies that I would be referring people out to, but we definitely can help with you know, your social media, help with drafting some captions, help with resizing photos, some, you know, help with Canva graphics, scheduling tools. There's things like Later and Hootsuite and Planoly. So anything like that, you know, we can help too. You know, it might be that you supply the photos, some rough ideas of captions, and we'll put it together into Planoly for you to review and then say, yes, it's good, schedule out. Equally, a lot of you are very, no, I love doing my social media. You know, I like to post every day. So it just depends on, again, what's your like and what's your dislike. Newsletters. MailChimp, Flowdesk, there's several different ones. Keep, I know Heather you use. Support with you know, designing those, drafting those out and sending those on a monthly basis or whatever that might be. Some of our VAs have experience with blog writing, so, you know, could support you there. Press pitches, magazine ads, you know, things like that. If you're dealing with the reps and making sure that they have your logo or, you know, the project photo and that they're resized to a certain standard, you know, coordinating the proofs, promotional items, swag items, things like, you know, pens, notebooks, bags, things like that. You might be saying, okay, I want to do them, but I don't know where to start. Can you look into some companies that could supply them? What would the cost be? You know, support with that process for artwork sign off, quoting. A few things there for marketing, some ideas. I'm very aware I'm just talking at you all, so I'm trying to go through the PowerPoint as we go. We'll get to questions at the end. I'm just trying to go through without kind of having people coming back and diving in. I see there's one question in there already, so feel free to kind of ping them through as we go, and then we can answer them all at the end. Design support. Again, our VAs, some of them have more of an admin based background, some of them have a marketing background, some of them have an interior design background. So depending on what it is that you're looking for, you know, again, right back to the beginning, it comes to that list of what your likes and dislikes are, what you think you should be outsourcing, what you're not as efficient at, what you don't want to be doing. But, you know, we can help with creating mood board presentations, room boards in Canva, PowerPoint, Adobe, whatever it is that your platform is that you use. You know, some I speak to are like, oh, I hate putting a mood board together. I'd love just to be able to send all the photos and the links and just have somebody do it for me. It takes me way too long. Equally, others love spending, you know, a few hours tootling away doing a mood board. So that's but something that could be outsourced. Product sourcing, I get mixed reviews on this, in that it's very 50-50 with designers. I think some are like, no, it's a very personal thing, I could never dream of having somebody else source product for me. And then others are like, yeah, it's really efficient if you have a key look, a style, very specific requirements are okay. It's these vendors that I'm looking for this sort of bed, I'm looking for this sort of coffee table, can you go away and find me a few options? Don't spend any more than 3 hours on this, or whatever it might be. But that's something that we do have VAs experienced in that, and we'll be able to help you there. Same with the CAD drafting support, and creating FFE schedule, specification schedules, schedules for tracking sheets, anything like that for product design specifications. Okay, so we've gone through what to delegate. Now sort of talking about how to delegate. The first one, the key is learning to let go. It's a skill. I think we're all we get to that point where we're like, we know we need help, we just kind of have to take the leap. And I think we're all everybody gets to that point. You have to be ready, you have to be willing to delegate. Some people get there quicker than others. I've spoken to some designers and then they're back on the phone with me 3-6 months later. No, now I'm ready. Now I know I'm ready. I have to bite the bullet and make this happen. Nobody's saying that you have to offload the world at once. Like, just again, back to that list, even if it's one thing, even if it's like, I'm just going to offload my newsletters, or I'm just going to offload my quoting or my tracking, or, it doesn't have to be, I need to think of 50 things to offload here. Our plans start from 10 hours a month. So, 10 hours a month, it's half an hour a day is what that really is kind of equating to. So it might be that you start, you have to start somewhere. And it's really, okay, what is that one thing or two things that I'm comfortable and I am ready to offload? So it's kind of, that's, that's a good place to start. Being clear, obviously, in what it is that you're wanting to delegate the task. What is it you're delegating? Why are you delegating it? What is the required outcome? What are you looking from this task? When do you need it by? Being pretty clear whether that be that you're delegating that via via email, via a Zoom call, via training videos. You probably have that client onboarding process. You might have templates, standardized emails. You probably have them without even realizing you have them, in that you send emails every day and probably give or take a few different things. They are worded the same for whatever that step in the process is, whether it's a new client inquiry, whether it's scheduling a photo shoot with a client. These sort of email templates already exist in your sent box. It's just finding them, compiling them, pulling them together, and having that template and process in place that you're then able to clearly pass on to somebody else. You have a process for what you do, how you do it. It's then how you pass that on then to the VA to delegate. And there's several ways to do that, whether that be through training videos or standard operating procedures that you've got, or project management softwares, which we'll review in a minute. What are you comfortable with? Some designers are, they don't use project management systems, and that's fine, and they're not comfortable to do so. They're old school, they have their pen and paper, and that's fine. And it's like, okay, well, we're not going to force you into a hole. If you're a circle, we're not going to try and fit you in a square hole here. It's not going to work. We will work with you on what you're comfortable using and doing. And if it is that you're happy to send that on email, or you want to have a phone call, every day or every other day, because that's the only way you know how to get across what you need. That's fine. Equally, there are project management systems that, you know, some of you are already using, some of you want to use. Asana is a popular one. You know, we speak with designers about setting up you know, their Asana softwares. They have templates probably that they've purchased and don't know how to set those up. That's something that we can support with as well. Getting those into Asana, you know, ClickUp, Trello, Notion's another one, Basecamp. There's a lot of project management systems out there. Monday. They all do similar things. I think it's very much a personal preference. It's a bit like Outlook and Gmail. You know, Mac and PC. There's nothing wrong with either. It's just what you what you prefer. But they're, you know, task management system, project management systems are good. But again, it's not something we want to add to your plate. If you're already utilizing them, you may already have a team, you may already have, you know, other designers, other people that you outsource to, bookkeepers, that, you know, it makes sense to just integrate into your existing project management tool to assign tasks, assign deadline, things like that. You know, the good old Google Doc meeting agenda, to-do list, you know, that's always a good one. You know, it's a place to start if you don't have anything. Pull that together. It's a live document. Everybody, you know, you and the VA can see what is on there, what has to be done, when it has to be done by. Excel sheets, you know, again, is another one. Loom is a personal favorite of mine. It's a recording tool, essentially, screen sharing recording tool. So, you know, this is just one here. I did a screenshot for a process of you know, creating a retainer in-house, but whatever it is that's on your screen, you know, you're already doing it. So if you want to be delegating out how to set up a client contract in DocuSign, you know, the next one that you do, record it. You know, use Loom. They have a browser clipper. It's free for up to 5 minutes, and just record what it is that you're, I think after that it's like $10 a month. It's not crazy expensive. You know, record what you're doing, talk through it. Okay, this is where how I upload it. I have them, you know, I fill in this field, I put the date in, I put the signature in, you know, this is what I type when I send it. And there, straight away, you've just created a brief, you know, an SOP. So that is something that you can then share for the next contract that you want to send out. This is how I send my contract out. You know, there it is. You've recorded it. You've recorded that process. You've not now got to kind of brief somebody, train somebody. You know, they're able to watch that, to copy it, to follow it, to do that task that you're asking them to do. So Loom is a really good tool for delegating anything that's online as a process that you're doing. Scribe is another one, very similar to Loom in that it's a screen share. And what that actually does is that once you've done the video, it then takes it and turns it into step-by-step in a Word document. So that's actually really good one. If it is that you're at that point where you're thinking, okay, I need to start putting some processes together, you know, putting to-dos and how these things happen. You know, go back to that list, go back to that, what it is that you're ready to outsource. And the next time you do it, record yourself doing it. And then you have it. You know, that's you're halfway there that's your kind of brief to your process of how you do things. So yeah, I would highly recommend Loom to check that out. Okay, I think that was covered off the main things I wanted to kind of cover off, Heather. I don't know whether again, I'm aware I've just kind of spoken like blah for half an hour. I don't know if we've got any questions in the chat.
Well, let's stop share screen and then we can see better.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Is that good?
Yeah. All right. So I see 2 questions. Are you able to see them?
Yes.
No,
Yes, I think I can actually. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Will this be shared? Yes, I believe it will. Heather? Yes.
Yes, absolutely. I will put together an email after this. I will download it and have all of Melissa's information on there too. So if you're ready to contact them and take the next step, it will all be recorded in there. And actually, before we even go to questions, let me just share two little things. So first thing is that MC Virtual Assistants is a sponsor of TDC, and it looks like a lot of members are on here. I see there could be non-Designer Collaborative members in. So just so you guys know who are in the Designers Collaborative, this is already set up with like so many virtual assistants. And so MC Virtual Assistants totally know TDC's process and how to like, go to the main spreadsheet and see, okay, what's the math? Okay, then let me go to the price list. Okay, now how does this person want payment? Like they know all of the Google Docs and the shared drive and all of that stuff already. So, and a lot of them are already working for a bunch of designers and have access to it already. So it's not new to MC Virtual Assistants. And then the second thing I want to say is because we also, TDC has hired MC Virtual Assistants to help us. So we have Amanda, she's great. And when it came to like, okay, everyone keeps talking about this Canva Pro. And I should have known, like, just get on board. But I had my Photoshop and my Illustrator forever, but then I had to buy a Mac and I don't want to pay for it again because I'm old and my copy is ancient and I own it and it is mine. It's literally a CD from 15 years ago. But it works, damn it. So I'm just using that. But now she has converted me to Canva and I really like it. So I was like, why do I have to learn new software? But at the same time, Amanda taught me the software. So we had a session with her in a Zoom where she's like, okay, so here's how you do it. And here's the fun things. And then, and it's all recorded so I can watch it again and go back and be like, what was the thing? You find the thing because you made the video and then it's, right. So, there are tons of, like, every year I'm going to be 47 in a couple of weeks, and every year technology gets harder and harder for me. It's speeding up in like how many different new things there are. And so the learning process, I feel like I'm slowing down to learn this stuff. But with, these young little virtual assistants, they're like, no, it's like this, and then it. So you don't have to know all of the softwares. If there are tools out there that can help you be faster and better and make your job easier, open to the new software because they will mostly take it over for you. But every once in a while, if you feel like dabbling in it, they'll teach you how to use it. So those were the two things I wanted to share. So go ahead to questions. Okay.
Yeah. So I think, to record it. And then I have, as a student, as a student after graduation, how can I create a workflow of my own before starting my job or as a freelancer as well? Okay, I'm not sure I completely understand that question. Creating a workflow of your own, or as a freelancer. Well, when you're just starting out, it's tough to know. So I would say, once you have a task, someone's assigned you a task, or you have one for yourself, just make a note of what you're doing. How you went about getting to it. I went to a website and I found the fabric samples, and then I opened an account with that vendor, and then I was able to order memo samples. And so if you're just aware of your little tasks that you do along the way,
you know, it will help in the process later. And, you know, Tracy, my partner, is in here for the Designers Collaborative. When we try and create what our workflow is, I swear it's like we finish that and then it changes.
Yes, yeah.
You know,
but then that's the point. It's always evolving. You know,
yeah.
that is the point. It does change, and I think, yeah, but you
Start
have
somewhere.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
and I think at the very beginning, you're probably overwhelmed, and you feel like this must be important, right? I must document. Well, you can document after you've done it a couple of times, because you'll start to get a feel for what your system should be and how to then make it better, and it always changes, so it evolves.
Yes. Yeah. Do your VAs use a procurement software? I feel this is a large time consumer for me. In terms of procurement software, yes. It depends on what we get ingrained in whatever software you're using. So, if you have Mydoma, Studio Designer, House Pro, Ivy, Design File, Design Manager, there's a lot out there that have that capability for proposals, creating invoices, creating purchase orders, tracking. A lot of these softwares, actually the tracking back end of it isn't as robust as I think it could be. So, to be honest, a lot of the time what we do and what designers already have and what we utilize are, Google spreadsheets, Airtable, software, online sharing spreadsheets, that then we can be tracking everything in there. But yes, the VAs are able to go into those softwares and be updating the PO statuses, updating the ship date, showing that it was delivered or that it's at the receivers, to integrate with the software that you're already using. Yeah,
they know a lot of different softwares, so they shouldn't need training, right?
Just training on how you use it, again, what your process is, because the basics of Mydoma or Studio or whatever it is, they know. Every designer uses these platforms differently and different functionalities of it. Some only use 10% of it, others like live and die by them. It just depends on the extent that they're using the platform, and how what their process is. Do they create POs from there, or do they actually do the POs in a spreadsheet? Is it connected with QuickBooks? Do they actually send out the invoices from QuickBooks and not the software? So it's all really just how you use it, how much information you give the clients. Some of the some clients literally like list everything out. Some designers like to list everything, and others are like, literally, it's a black chair because we don't want them Googling and finding it and price checking me. And so it's how do you like your proposal to look? What information do you want on your invoices and on the POs and those sort of things? But
all right, I have a follow-up question then.
Sure.
So if someone hasn't started in a software yet, they're in a spreadsheet world or whatever, they've got their pen and paper, but they're about to decide to go with one of those, would you guys help them set it up? Because I think that's half the battle.
Yes. If yes, knowing which software you're thinking of, because again, some I talk to them, they're like, I really don't know. And again, it's hard. I can sort of give advice, but it's hard because again, it's so much of a personal preference with these softwares. I have some that are like, oh, I love Studio Design. Oh my God, no, it's far too cumbersome for me. I love Design Files. It is a bit of a personal preference. Again, they all try to do the same thing. It also depends, I think, on your business, the level of project, the scope of the project, what it is that you're doing, what other softwares you already have. But yes, a VA, assuming they were experienced in it and I knew that was what you were thinking and you were needing, they would be able to support with setting the projects up in there and, working with your bookkeeper or accountant to make sure that it was set up on the back end as well. Yeah.
Great. Okay.
One from Adriel. Can you hire VAs hourly or just monthly fees? We offer month-to-month contracts. So our minimum monthly commitment is 10 hours a month. and we go right through to sort of 50, 60 hours a month, whatever you need. There is a 2-month commitment up front, and then it is just month to month. And we can upgrade and downgrade the hours if needed, because we know this industry is flexible. 1 month you could be really busy, and then you might be really busy over the summer and then quieter at the end of the year. So it might be, often I speak to designers and they're like, I've got all of these things on my wish list, like I want to create a welcome packet, I want to set my Asana up, I want to get my vendor spreadsheet together, so they start off with more hours initially to help get everything set up, and then it's more a case of then downgrading the hours once all of those things are done. So yeah, it is monthly, but only with a month-to-month commitment.
Okay. New one.
Better organize my tasks. Another one from another freelancer. How can I better organize my tasks before starting a project? Should I create multiple plans for different types of projects? Again, I would just suggest a task management program like Asana or ClickUp or Notion, Monday, seeing how, depending on the scope of your projects and the type of your projects, that's always a good one to use, so you can have your own task. You can have Asana just for yourself, you don't need to have Asana for teams. It's a task management system for yourself. Trello is another one. So yeah, it would depend really on the scope of your projects and what's involved, but yeah, I would suggest setting up a project management system like that is always a good place to start.
I think most of those also have like a free couple of weeks or maybe even a free month where you can kind of test it out and
yeah,
see.
they all have free trial periods, and even after the trial period, then most of them keep the basic functions. Yeah, or it's a case of if you have 5 or more projects, then they charge you for the extra projects, or yeah, so they all have different, but most of them definitely. I know Asana has a free plan. You can trial it and then stay on the basic plan. You don't get some of the upgrades, but they're not always needed. So yeah.
Okay. Any more questions from anybody? Go ahead and type them in the Q&A. Chat works too. No. Okay.
Good.
Perhaps we covered it. So that really was great for all the things that you could be delegating.
Oh, we have another one.
We got one. Yep.
How do you pair up your VAs?
Good question.
Good question. That is, so we would have a discovery call. So, if you're interested in working with us, then the first steps is we, to have schedule a discovery call. I have an inquiry form as well, which just is some basic information about, your current setup, your team, what softwares you use, some initial thoughts about what areas you're looking to outsource. And on that discovery call, we kind of really delve into and outline what it is that you're looking to upload. And based on that really is how we match you with the VA. Whether you're looking for design-based support with mood boards, or whether you're looking for more operational support or admin support, will depend on who you get matched with based on the VA background. It might be, okay, I use Asana, I use Mydoma, I use MailChimp, making sure that the VA has experience using those softwares. Time zone is a consideration, but not always a deal breaker. We're based in, all of our VAs are based in the US, most of them. So, we do consider that if that's a requirement of, okay, I want somebody in my inbox at 9 o'clock every morning. As an example. So, depending on what your requirements are as well. So it's all really based on that initial call that we have to narrow down any softwares and requirements that you have. Yeah. And
then you also get to interview the person.
Yes. So we would match you based on who we think, is the best match, based on experience, softwares, time zones, any specific requirements, personality, And then you have the opportunity to meet with them on a phone call or a Zoom call and just make sure that it feels a fit from both sides before committing to anything. So yeah, you know, we want both of our clients and our VA to be comfortable, you know, moving forward as best as possible. You know, it doesn't always work out. Very few occasions we have, for whatever reason, the match, you know, doesn't work. And in that instance, we will always look to assign an alternative VA for you. So yeah.
Great.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? These were all great. Give you guys a second to type.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm not seeing anybody coming through with any questions yet. But I hope that this was very inspiring for everyone to realize that there is absolutely things you could be delegating, should be delegating.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's getting to that point where you're like, I'm ready, I need to, and then really kind of addressing, first of all, starting somewhere. You know, the first step is always the hardest, but once you take it,
coming up with the list of things that you don't like to do. It's such an easy thing that you can just sort of like on the fly create, and then, you know,
it can be overwhelming. It can be overwhelming. And, you know, equally, there's, you know, we're not all experts at everything.
Right. And,
you know,
it involves like everything, you know, you might start with like these 3 things, and then 2 months in, you're like, oh, I'm going to add this and this to this person's task list now and take away from my task list.
Yeah.
Oh, we've got more questions coming in. Great.
You know, many designers I talk to are like, okay, I need a bookkeeper. So I'm like, you know, I always sometimes say, okay, we'll start there. You know, we don't provide bookkeeping services, but I can give recommendations for some. So it's like, okay, you know, start there, like get your bookkeeper. Okay, now it might be that you're going to outsource specifically just your rendering. You know, while some of our VAs are capable, if I spoke to somebody who just wanted renderings, in all honesty, I would refer them elsewhere because there's so many rendering agencies out there. You know, that's not our niche. We're more of the admin, the operational, the procurement support. So, you know, it might be then that they outsource their rendering, then they might say, okay, I'm going to outsource my my social media. So it's getting to that point. And yeah, you don't have to start off and look at everything and think, I just don't know where to start. Starting somewhere and starting small is always always the key.
All right, so they have asked for your contact information. So would you type that everything, how to contact you, website, email, all of that?
Put it in the chat.
Yeah, put it in the chat.
Yeah,
that'd be good. And then Tracy says, I want to share with all that MCVA team is highly creative and solution driven. Whenever you don't feel strong, ask. They got you. So that's just a little shout out for Tracy.
Yeah, and I'll happily kind of talk to people, and I have people that kind of circle back with me, and 6 months later, you know, it might be okay. Yeah, I might talk to them and say, you know what you need right now actually isn't a VA. You need a bookkeeper, or you need it sounds like actually you need somebody to help you in person, you know, like, yeah, so just kind of starting somewhere. Yeah.
And we have one more question can you help with building websites, 3D renderings in your wheelhouse? So yes, websites.
We don't help with building websites specifically, no. Again, there's a lot of agencies that do that, branding specialists, website specialists, and I would happily, give some referrals. Our VAs would be able to go in and make updates, but we're not website designers. And again, 3D renderings, yes, they are. Some of our VAs are experienced, in using the rendering softwares. If it was solely 3D rendering that you were looking for, again, I would probably be referring you elsewhere to another agency, or, you know, there's so many people that specialize in that. I do have a sort of collaboration with the Virtual Design Mentor as well, so they know, you know, I have a lot of referrals there. It all depends on what you're looking for, because if you were saying, okay, I'm needing a VA for this and this, but actually, you know, if they could help me with sourcing, they could help me with mood boards, you know, now and then I might need some help with the rendering, but it's not all I need, you know, then at that point, that's something that, yes, we could support with. I think it all depends on what your task list and your sort of wish list, if you like, looks like.
Great. Hi.
I did put my details in the chat there. Yep, the best place to head to is the website, mcvirtualassistants.com. On there, we outline some more of our services, our packages. There's a contact form on there, and, you know, you can book a discovery call through the website as well with me. You know, I will say there's a timeline. You know, if you were to kind of talk to me and say, okay, I need somebody tomorrow, that's not going to happen with the best will in the world. But we do have a time frame for taking a discovery call, matching you with a VA, you having that call together, and then onboarding. So, you know, generally we book around 4 to 6 weeks out. So it's always good to think, if it's something you're thinking about, you know, I get inquiry forms, and, you know, I say, when you're looking to on board with your VA, and it's the summer, you know, and that's great. You know, you're thinking about it, like, let's have the call, let's identify those areas, let's get you in the system. You know, so it's always good to, you know, not quite get to that point where you're absolutely tearing your hair out. But you're nearly there and thinking about it, and okay, yes, I feel like this is the next thing for me in my business to move forward. Yeah.
And I did put the information in chat, so
Okay.
it's there. It was when you posted, it was just to you and I.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it's one of those things that catches me out sometimes. So to everybody sees it. Yeah,
I see. Thank you, Heather.
So the website and Melissa's email is there, so you can ask even more questions as you think of them, you know, throughout your day. And this will get shared with everyone. I am going to High Point, so forgive me if I don't get to it before then, but absolutely by next week we'll have the recording and an email go out for everyone who registered. Thank you so much to everyone who attended, and thank you to Melissa for, you know, explaining all of the things that we could be delegating. So thank you so much.
Pleasure. Have a good day.
So,
thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.